Leif just went and told me that our ancestors were bums who ran away from battle.
Count your days, Leif. I mean, duh. We had to run. Imagine you're being chased by Central Sea listeners who carry bonkais with them. I may be big and strong and known as the troll, but I'm not going up against that. Who you think I am, buddy?
But what are we doing if the threat comes here? We can't escape Bankai so easily. We're roadmen are a threat, you feel me? Those Central Sea listeners are something.
I mean, we'll just run again. Throw some nandos at them, hit a sprint. Maybe throw on some Dane Santana and they'll stop to sit down and listen. Or we could just go to Vinland.
Thank y'all for the love on the recent videos and make sure to sub up. But Vinland Saga is peak. It's a Friday, which means it's key day. So now it's time to experience peak. We see this guy in prime farm fields. I'm talking about farms that you'd see in Grow a Garden, the type of stuff that makes the front page because it's so booming. But then as this guy looks down, he's looking at a pile of dead bodies. We see this guy in Warren. He blocks this dude's first attack. He pushes his blade back, then gives him the loopy on his chest. He then dodges his next attack and gives this guy a clean cut on the back. He dodges the spear, grabbing it, and then I can't even show this on YouTube, I don't think. Hit that man with a "this video is intended for mature audiences" attack. Don't get my vid taken off the platform in 2 seconds. He then gets snuck but kicked out of the way, and we see this giant dude run through, splitting a mask and all the people in front of it in half. We find out that this dude with black hair's name is Thors, and the giant alongside him is Thorkell. He tells Thorkell, yo, I'm tired of running duo squads. I'm trying to run solo squads because I just got done watching a Tfue video after school, and I'm gonna drop a 20 bomb. So he jumps to the other ship, starts cutting through each and every single person, and when he gets to the last dude, he catches his bow, starts shooting at people on an entirely different ship, and one dude tries to attack him but gets off screen, and as he's dying, he says sorry. And I wonder if this was important to Thor's development in any way. He gets shot, absolutely no reaction. It's like someone sickled him. But then somebody from another ship jumps over, knocks the weapon out of his hand, so he tackles him into the ocean. While they're underwater wrestling, he takes his sword and stabs him with it, but then he looks at the sword and he drops it. If you know, you know. We see this little boy, and this is our main character Thorfinn right here in the flesh. This is his sister Ylva. I might have said her name wrong. This is their mother Helga, and this is their dad Thors. That warrior we saw before, that is this boy's dad. But we see this man in some hat telling all the kids about his adventures, saying, ooh, I crossed barriers none of you guys will ever see. I went to a land so far to the west where there's no war, no battles, no nothing, and that place is called Vinland. And the kids like, you're a fake demon for real, bro. None of that happened. But that's when we see one of that one chimera ant from Hunter x Hunter's slave, and he's walking out here in the cold, no armor on his body. I know he's fallen in some powdered snow. I hate that junk in Minecraft. And Leif is telling Thors and Helga about the cold front. He's saying it's worse than any other year. But during the next day, we see Thorfinn saying, I just want to go out to sea. I want to be the best cook in all of the East Blue like I'm Sanji. But Leif tells him the sea is a dangerous place. But before this conversation even happened, Thors and Ylva were shoveling the snow off of the roof, and that's when Ylva falls. But she noticed something is in the snow, and she digs it up, and it's that man we saw before. They try to nurse this man back to health, and they successfully do it somehow. But Leif tells Thorfinn, long ago we had to leave Norway because King Harold pulled up, and basically no one wanted to kneel to him, and if you weren't gonna kneel to him, I mean, what do you expect? You were gonna get slimed out. So that's how we came to Iceland. We ran. But that's when someone runs in and tells Thors that Halfdan is here. We see this man drop his chains like he's Karapika himself, saying, you know, the best thing about chains is they can enforce law. You know what I'm saying, partner? And that's when Halfdan uses his judgment chain to take the sword out of his own goon's hand, by the way, and gives him a fresh haircut, face cut, skin cut. But we see the slave, and he's basically on the verge of death. He's already seen his family on the other side, and that's when Halfdan walks into Thor's home saying, he's coming with me. We gotta make an example out of this guy. I mean, what? You thought I was just gonna let you keep this dude even though he's about to die? Thor's is like, you know what? 8 sheep, bro. Just get out of here. And he trades this guy for 8 sheep. W morals, but the dude ends up dying. We see a bunch of naked dudes bathing and some people sneaking in the water, and we find out about the English's attack on the Vikings because the Vikings wash every Saturday and they attacked them. I'm gonna be so honest, I can't exactly remember why they told us this, but I feel like it's gotta be important. But while Leif tells Thorfinn that he's going to Norway, Thorfinn notices in the distance that a warship is coming. So he runs looking for his dad, and he's like, yo, there's a warship coming. I'm sure they're here for you. You've had 2 warships back to back. Is there something you want to tell us? And that's when we see the Yams Vikings. They all flip their weapons and bow, moving as one. And the main one, Floki, the biggest, ooh, I just want to jump through the screen and beat this man up. Left, right, moving like Mash Burndead. That's what I want to do to him. Ah, never mind. Here's where it makes sense, because Floki tells him about the English killing the Vikings, and he says, we need some revenge, and we're about to go get that revenge. So there's left, right. But then Floki, the head of the Yams Vikings, I don't know if he's exactly the head of them, but he looks like the biggest man in charge right now. He says, Sigvaldi told me to come here and get you, and if you don't come, oh, we already got them laid out like this is battleship, like this is chess. The Yams Vikings are in place. We're not gonna leave here empty-handed. So later on, Floki announces to the crowd, out. If any of you guys are warriors, y'all gotta come with me. And that's when everybody starts going crazy, getting their gear, saying, oh, I can't wait to journey with Thors. I didn't know he was a part of the Vikings. That man must be strong. But then we see Thors explaining to Helga and Leif it was kill or be killed on the battlefield, and I got tired of doing all the killing. Like, I actually low-key got sick of it. So yeah, I'm done with that. I'm not gonna be a killer no more, and that's why he left the Vikings. We see Thorfinn battling each and every single one of these kids in this game, and he's cooking them, giving them full-on injuries. But when he gets out the game, he's like, no. Like them kids when they lose in a game and they still want to play, or they get so mad they flip the board game over depending on what game you're playing. I know you've seen that happen before. He's still attacking them, then he walks away, leaves each and every single one of them injured. These are 10 to 11-year-old kids, by the way, and Thorfinn is 6. Even his dad's taking it back. He's like, hold on, Troll Jr., is he gonna be moving like me? But Thorfinn's mad that he can't go to war with his dad, and he's telling Ylva, if I had a real weapon, I'd be out there doing crazy numbers. I'd be moving like Thors in his prime, but better. And that's when he finds a chest and sees the dagger that he's gonna carry with him for the rest of the season. It looks so clean. But then Thors is like, nah, you have no enemies. You don't need to fight. I don't know why you're picking up that dagger. You need to go pick up a controller and play some PS5 games or something. Yes, my voice just cracked, but I'm not retaking that line. And I'm leaving this in the video. But Thorfinn runs out because he's not hearing all that. But then we see this group of people throwing axes at a priest's head, and we see Floki talking to this man named Askeladd. He says, 5 pieces of gold. All you gotta do is bring his corpse back to us, and we know who they're talking about. And we see Askeladd asking Floki about Thors himself, saying, yo, what type of warrior is this guy? Floki's like, stop asking questions. I'm not here for small talk, little bro. And he says, all right, 5 gold up front or you have no deal. Floki tells him he's bold for saying that, and when Floki locks in, a spear comes out of nowhere, not even phasing either of them. Askeladd think he Kobe Bryant on the paint. You are not the GOAT. Askeladd low-key is the GOAT. I'm not gonna lie. And Kobe is not the GOAT of basketball before you NBA fans say something crazy like that. Burtis, I'm looking at you. But this guy named Bjorn plays it off saying, oh, sorry, my hand slipped. We find out he threw that junk through the wall to stab a spy listening in. And I bet this spy was ready to up arms if he caught Askeladd moving different. And Askeladd's like, you got me with them 5 Dave & Buster's tokens? Loki's like, sure, bro, just take them. And then they set off to kill Thors. We then see everyone loading up the boats to get ready for battle, and Ari's spitting game to Ylva, but his mom sells the bag. Ari's not even looking at the girl speaking to him. He could bag that right now. That's a Wimby dunk. But for some reason, he doesn't want her, not even paying attention to her wishes goodbye. But that's when we find out from Leif, they're not really going into war. They're finna hit a loop around, drop off, crisscross, mismatch, switch up, and go back home. But while Thors is searching for Thorfinn before they leave, he can't find him. Even Ylva's saying, yo, Thorfinn's a bummy brat. Dude ain't even seeing his dad off. But that's when Thors pulls out this big oar, bigger than all of theirs combined, and they start rowing out in the sea. We hear a voice say, is it safe to come out now? Monkey D. Luffy from the barrel. Thorfinn runs out, and he snuck onto the ship. He's excited to see the sea for the first time, and this is the true start of his journey. And we see Askeladd scheming with Bjorn, saying, yo, why do you think he hired us instead of getting that whole Viking fleet to fight this one guy? Bjorn's like, I don't know. Maybe somebody was snitched like 6ix9ine and it wouldn't be good looks on their name. Askeladd's like, yeah, you're kind of right, but he's also scared that if the Viking fleet lost to this one warrior, their name would be tarnished. Bjorn doesn't believe him. Who's gonna let him know? But later in the night, Ari decides it's a good idea to spit game about Thor's daughter in front of Thors, saying, I can't wait to go back home a man. He's like, yeah, to get with my daughter, right? It's cool though. If you strong, that's the type of man she likes. But then we find out more about Thors. We find out that Helga is the daughter of the chief, and after they gave birth to Ylva, he's like, yo, nah, we need a boy next. This ain't gonna cut it. That's what the chief wants. And for the sticklers out there, he didn't want to name Ylva, and Helga got mad, so he named Ylva after his mom. But then after Leif tells him that they've made it to their destination where they can trade and get drinking water, he's hitting his drum, but all of a sudden he stops. He says something's not right. Thor starts looking up. Leif is looking all around. Leif is like, there's less houses than usual, so Thor says, let's turn around before it's too late. And on the mountain, we see a bunch of dudes sitting up there, and they notice that they're trying to turn around, so they drop a whole bunch of logs blocking them out of the way, making it pile up so the only direction they can go is forward. And guess who's coming from their front? Askeladd and his goons pull up, but before they start fighting, Thors opens the chest. It drops a gold scar, and he hands it to Thorfinn, saying, only use this if you need to. If it's you and someone else in the circle and you need to get that win, go ahead and use it, but leave everything else up to me right now. Bjorn saying, let me go handle this dude alone. It's only one dude. They didn't even bring an army to fight us. But Thors is 10 steps ahead. He jumps to their ship. Big dude saying, what are you doing on our ship, bro? Punch straight to the face. He's out cold. Big dude's brother runs up and gets an elbow. He starts cooking through all of Askeladd's fleet with his hands alone. Notice he's not using his sword, and all Askeladd can do is stare and smile. He's ready for this fight. So Thors continues walking up, and he cooks 3 of Askeladd's dudes without even breaking a sweat. 3 more of them run up, so he breaks the first one's arm. Thors palm to the chin on the next one, and he deflects the next one's blade, then hits him with a gut check, sending him flying back. Next one gets a direction change to his blade, then a mean palm to the face. Element is surprised, but he catches his weapon, pulls him closer, then elbows him in the face. You see the eyes roll into the back of his head. Whole crew's getting scared at this point, and he knocks someone into the ocean but throws him an oar so he doesn't drown. That's more disrespectful than killing the dude. And after knocking this random into a new camera angle, Bjorn's berserker Stroom finally takes over his body. It's putting in work. He's running through his entire crew, destroying it, and starts slamming his head against the mast until he notices Thors. Bjorn runs up and gets knocked back with one hit, and he can't even see out that eye anymore. Bjorn goes in for another attack, but Thors changes his stance and hits him with a mean uppercut, knocking Bjorn out in 2 hits. They were hyping up this berserker form like he was about to take Thors to heaven, to Valhalla. But Bjorn stomps his foot and he's back up, and that's when the other ship pulls up to Thors' old ship where Thorfinn is at. So he throws Bjorn in the sky, making him crash down into the other ship. He jumps back to his OG ship, pulls out his sword, and cuts the plank so they can't cross over. Flips his hair in the wind real quick. It says, "I've already taken out half your army, bro. Y'all can't handle me." Hold on. Ain't you Nathaniel B? Carry on. But Thors points his blade to Askeladd and says, "I'm ready for a duel. I can tell you're the strongest one." And he says, "I could take everybody out in your crew. Their fodder. I could cook each and every single one. But I need to fight you. And if you win, you can have anything you want. But if I win, you gotta leave." So Askeladd asks him, "How you know I'm the strongest here?" "I smelled it on you. I'm like Tanjiro." And Askeladd hops over and says, "Yeah, I smelled the same thing on you. That's expected from the troll of Yam." And then Thors finds out that Floki sent him. After Thors asks Askeladd if he has a wife or children, and Askeladd says no, he's like, "Alright, bet, let's get it started." As Thors is walking up, Askeladd puts his sword into the mast and makes the ship sail fall down. And the second the ship sail covers his body, he's gone. And from down under, Askeladd slides in and he ends up cutting Thors on his chest. But Thors ended up dodging, so it wasn't a death blow. Thors goes in for a kick but barely misses, and Askeladd flips back to safety. And after he sees the blood, he tells him, "Sorry, I can't hold back anymore." "Excuse me? Your life is on the line and you're holding back in a fight when your son's on the same ship as you? My bad, Thors. Whatever you're thinking may go." So Thors runs in and he breaks Askeladd's posture with just one swing. He then starts chopping away at Askeladd's sword like it's a cutting board, and all Askeladd can manage to do is block. He hits a crit on Askeladd, breaking his posture, sending him flying back. But Askeladd catches himself with his hand and dodges the game over. He sees another crit coming for him and dodges a second game over. And Thors runs over and hits him while he's on the ground, and Askeladd can barely manage to keep it off. So they start parry trading again, but when they stop, Askeladd is like, "He's trying to break my sword," but that can only mean his sword is about to break too. So after Thors spins into a swing on Askeladd, Askeladd breaks his sword. Askeladd thinks he already won and goes in for the next attack, but Thors already had a plan. He stomps his foot into the ground and punches Askeladd's arm, making him drop the sword. He picks it up and then he points it to his neck, and then he tells Askeladd, "I already won." But Askeladd says, "I can't say I surrender in front of my men, so this duel actually isn't over until one of us is dead." So Askeladd asks Thors why he won't kill him, saying, "You're a waste of talent, I'm not gonna lie." And Thors says, "I was weak, that's why I used this weapon, but a true warrior, they don't need a weapon, they don't have any enemies." And after hearing that, Askeladd is like, "Wow, you're the new Gen Shakespeare, how about you become our leader?" And he said it was just a joke. But Bjorn didn't like this joke, so he jumps over to the new ship and he puts a sword to Thorfinn's neck. And that's when Thors puts his sword to Askeladd's neck, because Askeladd wasn't planning to follow the rules from the beginning. He just said, "Oh, I was just here for your bounty, I'm not gonna lie, we do not need you." And then Thors throws the sword into the ocean, and Thors is telling him, "At least accept the fact that I'm the winner of this duel." And Askeladd is like, "I bet, I got you, you're the winner." And he puts his hand up, and that's when all the arrows start hitting Thors' body. But Thors isn't going down, he's still standing up. He turns to Askeladd to say one more time, "You better not forget I won this battle." He then turns to Leif, who's crying over there on his ship, and says, "Deliver my head to the head of the Yam Vikings. Let them know I didn't disappear, I died on the way." And then he turns to Bjorn and he says, "Let go of my son, bro, what are you doing?" Thorfinn runs up to Thors and hugs him, and he says, "I'm glad you were here so I could get to say goodbye." Ari runs up to try to fight Askeladd, but misses each and every single attack, and Askeladd hits Ari with a mean punch to the face, sending him flying, saying, "One Thors is worth 100 of you bums." And then they leave. But late at night, while Askeladd's crew is sailing, the crew looks over and they see Thorfinn all alone on the other ship with a dagger in his hand and a death stare. They're laughing at him, saying, "Oh, look at the little kid with a dagger, he ain't about that action." And that's when he screams out, saying, "I'm going to kill you, Askeladd. You took a true warrior that was my father. You guys are cowards for running away and doing what y'all did to him, so guess what? I'm gonna chase you down." And even they're kind of like, whoa, they're looking at his face, they're like, this kid should not have this much hate behind his eyes. I think he's really serious. They're like, should we throw him overboard? Askeladd's like, nah, leave the dude. He'll die anyway. But we see Thorfinn and he's struggling out here. He's drinking all the water reserves he has. He's sleeping out here in the wilderness. We see Askeladd and his crew plundering a city and Thorfinn's just sitting there watching. And when all of them lay down to go to sleep, Thorfinn picks up a big blade and walks up into Askeladd's room. He raises the blade up, but he can't do it. He can't bring himself to slime out Askeladd. And Askeladd was awake for all of this. And during the next day, when Askeladd sees Thorfinn out there, he's screaming at him saying, yo, fight me. Askeladd's like, you should have slimed me out last night when I was sleeping good, having good dreams. But now you can't. He tells him, I won't do it because my father taught me not to be a coward like you. I'ma fight you like a true warrior. So he runs at him with the sword and misses and gets it stuck in the ground. Askeladd hits him with a smooth kick to his gut, sending him flying, and he's out for the count. But after Thorfinn gets up, he smells some food, and Askeladd's crew is sitting at a fire eating. Even they're like, yo, you look terrible. Here, have this. It may not be much, but it's still something. And they're laughing at him, but Thorfinn is not accepting the food. But we see Thorfinn foraging, and he's eating whatever this is, so he goes and decides to eat the leftover bones. He can't even chew through the meat. This man is really in the slumps. Then we see Ylva and her family back in Iceland. But Leif comes to Helga in Ylva's house saying, I will find Thorfinn. I know he's still alive. And Ylva's trying to put on this tough girl act saying, hey, with both of them gone, there's less men, more work for me, but I'ma handle it because my mom can't get the job done. But randomly she breaks down in tears because even she can't put on that tough girl act for much longer. But we see Thorfinn training with his sword at night. But when he wakes up, he sees Bjorn foraging right in front of him. Bjorn says, yo, you know how to use that sword? He equips it in a heartbeat, says, I'ma kill you. It's your fault my father is gone. And he says, yeah, your father was a strong dude, but he was kinda dumb. So that's why your father is gone. No way he thought he was gonna fight someone like Askeladd and get out of it with just a duel. So he runs at him and Bjorn blocks his attack with his fist and says, you're just too weak, and leaves. But at nighttime, Thorfinn gets pulled up on by a wolf and he can't attack it with the big sword, so he switches to the dagger and he successfully gets his first kill and some good eats. So the next day, Thorfinn's up early using that dagger to cut at a bucket. He's throwing it at a tree. And when Askeladd and his men are leaving after they plundered whatever village they plundered, he pulls up on Askeladd and says, I challenge you to a duel. Askeladd's not going for it, but Bjorn tells him go for it. They start the duel and Thorfinn's missing each and every single attack, and that's when Askeladd gets bored and kicks him to the ground. Starts kicking him like a soccer ball, and Thorfinn's just getting cooked. I mean, what do we expect? He's 6. But when Askeladd turns his head, Thorfinn looks up, and that's when he throws his dagger at him, but Askeladd blocks it with his hand. And after seeing that, he's like, okay, hold on. I'm kind of seeing potential in you. So you show me what you got on the battlefield, and I'll grant you a real duel if you do. But we see Askeladd and his crew pull up to a battlefield, and this is Thorfinn's first time being on the battlefield. He's seeing a lot of bodies, and he cannot handle this. He still is only 6, by the way. But Askeladd tells Bjorn that the Danes are hiring Vikings like him so they can help in the war, because eventually the king is just gonna step on this land, but he's trying to whittle down a few numbers, you know, so he doesn't get slimed out on his way here. But while Askeladd is making a deal with this Danish soldier about getting rid of some English men in the country, after the deal is closed, he gets sniped in the back of the neck, and his companion gets sniped too, and arrows just start flying. But it's a bloodbath out here. People are getting cooked left and right, but that's when we see Thorfinn and a grown man. An adult soldier is saying, yo, are you a pirate too? Cause I'm gonna have to get you out of here. Thorfinn points his blade at him, but he's a fake demon. He runs. He gets pinned to the ground, and it's looking like it's about to be the end of the road for Thorfinn. But Askeladd stabs the soldier, and Thorfinn has to crawl out from under the dead body. But after that, he runs trying to find his next target, gets snuck from behind, but he weaves the attack and stabs him in the side. Gets hit with a 2-piece, knocking him off, and when the soldier goes in for the finishing blow, Thorfinn's quicker and stabs him one last time. And Thorfinn has finally claimed his first kill. He lets out a battle cry, shouting and screaming. Askeladd peeps this. And we see Thorfinn throughout the ages just cooking up. He's becoming a better soldier by the day. Even Bjorn is noticing everything that's going on. But that's when we see him, and Askeladd says, I need you to go scout out. Thorfinn's like, I'm not doing that. He points to his neck. He's like, bet, I'm doing that. So he runs out on 2 grown men, but they catch him and pin him to the ground, and it's looking like it's wraps for Thorfinn again. But he pulls the soldier's blade out and uses it to kill him, and then he just cooks the other one. But then we see Thorfinn running away from guards and dogs, and he has a wound on his shoulder. Thorfinn's also on this mission to scout ahead and be a messenger to let Askeladd and the rest of his crew know when it's safe to come on shore. And that's when we see a girl and her mother looking at a Thorfinn wounded in the river, so they take him in and nurse him back to health. Thorfinn has fleas. She gives him a good calm. An English soldier pulls up, says, hey, we're looking for a round boy about that age. Are you sure that boy isn't the one killing half of our soldiers? She's like, nah, bro, this is just my son John. Keep it pushing. And Thorfinn's acting like he doesn't understand their language, but the daughter's talking to the mother saying a filthy Dane like him cannot replace John. Dude's gone. And I mean, a Dane out of all people, you could have got a dog, a chameleon, a raccoon or something, and I would have accepted that more so than a Dane. And she's like, I'm snitching on him. But that's when Thorfinn grabs a stick of fire to go alert Askeladd, and he says, run. But there's a lot of commotion going on the beach, and a building's on fire. We see Thorfinn standing around dead bodies, and that guard from before is there too. And the woman that nursed him back to health runs up and sees all this, and you can see the emotion in his face. He still cooks that guard though, and he's like, I told you to run, why are you not running? And she stands there crying. We see Askeladd's crew walk up, and Thorfinn's having flashbacks of his mom and his older sister from looking at this woman. And when the guy passes her, she's gone, and all we see is her comb broken on the ground. Thorfinn had to suck it up and keep it pushing. We see Floki talking to someone that he's calling his lord, and he's staying during summer. That's when we're gonna show English the power we truly have. We see Askeladd's crew talking about we're gonna be broke. I mean, we're so cooked. We have no job since we're work for hire, and nobody is hiring us. And Bjorn asks Askeladd, what are we gonna do for the winter? Because if we're not getting any plunder, if we're not getting any loot, we're gonna be broke. Askeladd says we'll just migrate. And that's when we see the Franks fighting. They have an all-out war going on here, and it looks like nobody is winning. But we see Askeladd peek over the mountain. He says, you see all that loot right there? We're gonna break in there. We're gonna get every chest we need like it's a Fortnite vault in the agency. I'm walking out with Midas drum gun though. That's all I know. So they decide to join the attackers, and we see Thorfinn 10 years later, because I'm pretty sure he's 16 at this point. So Askeladd comes together with some intricate plan. He's like, all right, boom. Thorfinn's gonna be the messenger. He's gonna go in there. He's gonna get everything set up for us, and we're gonna walk in there and take all the spoils. But Thorfinn's not moving. He's saying, do you know how many people I've added to my belt for you? And you still won't give me a duel? I'm done. He's like, I bet 3 gold coins if you do it. Thorfinn tells him, what am I spending money on? And Askeladd's like, all right, fine. I guess if you bring me the head of a general, you can have your little duel. So Thorfinn runs to the Franks camp. He tells them he's an envoy, but they don't believe him. They're like, yo, what's a kid doing on the field? He's probably a spy. So they try to imprison him, but he hits that man with a quick, I don't even know. And he basically tells them, y'all strategy sucks. You gotta attack from the lake, because attacking from the gate, what? You're just gonna get gunned down. They're like, dude, you're so stupid. And he says, all right, you're refusing? Bet. Askeladd's men are gonna become your enemy. They put blades to his neck. He doesn't even break a sweat. He doesn't even change his emotion. He says it's still gonna happen. So the toad says cool. So they start the war. There's arrows flying here and there, and they're trying to break through their defenses. And Thorfinn asks the interpreter, so which one's the big dog around here, you know? He says, oh, you see the dude with the feathered helmet? Thorfinn says thank you, and he's gone. The toad from before switches up, and he's saying, yo, get that man Thorfinn out of here. He's breaking the rules. That's when the warships pull up out of nowhere, and they gotta duck down because Askeladd and his crew are joining the battle. They throw the warships in the water so they can attack from the back, and the Franks will have nowhere to go. Thorfinn runs past everybody on the battlefield, and he jumps across the trench and stabs both of his daggers into the wall so he catches himself. The general looks over, and he notices Thorfinn sitting there with blood on his blade. He runs up and he cuts the first soldier's fingers off, then catches his blade and walks up towards the rest. He absolutely speed blitzes the first 3. He then starts going down the line like this is nothing new to him, and I don't even know why I said that, because this is nothing new to him. After he cuts through one more, he dodges the last few and continues dodging before he pulls up to the general and takes his head clean off of his shoulder, sending it into the ocean. He's like, oh crap. He hops in the ocean too, because he's like, I need that. But yeah, Askeladd's crew took all of the spoils, and Thorfinn gets his duel with Askeladd. Askeladd and his crew return home, and Askeladd's talking to this dude named Gorm, and he's moving like Mr. Krabs, checking each and every single expense for Askeladd's crew. But that's when Thorfinn walks by, and he's like, hold on. Can you be a witness to our duel real quick? I gotta do something real quick. Askeladd and Thorfinn are getting ready for the duel, and the Anis is saying, yo, look at that kid. No way he's in Askeladd's crew, bro. They just be letting anybody join. But Thorfinn dashes in, and Askeladd barely dodges the attack. They start clashing on every attack, and Askeladd is saying, yo, you've gotten better, but Askeladd hits him with a crit, sending him flying back. We find out that he didn't get sent flying back, he just jumped back. He closes the distance again, clashing with Askeladd. But for the follow-up, Askeladd lets go of his blade, and Thorfinn knocks it across the arena. But he sees Askeladd going for a grab, so he hops back, because he knows that would have been dangerous. But after Askeladd picks up his sword, he resorts to rage baiting, saying, yo, what's your father's name again? Thorkell? He says, I've killed so many people, I don't even remember your father's name. I'm gonna be so honest. Once you get like me, you know, they start blending together and you forget. And that's when Thorfinn starts getting mad. He then says, are you sure I'm the one who even killed him for real? I mean, like, you could have got me mixed up with somebody else. You were young at the time, it's okay. But Thorfinn starts getting even angrier, and that's when he says, oh, I remember him. He was the idiot who threw his life away for you, a bum. And Thorfinn rushes in for an attack, but he gets hit with Batman level moves and pinned to the ground. And that's when Askeladd says you need to stop losing your cool, because it turns you into a fool. And you'll continue taking L's after L's if you keep acting like a tool. Hold on, I had to do it again. But later on, when Askeladd's party is partying, we see Thorfinn outside all alone. The slave girl that Gorm was treating badly came to bring him food and said, yo, I'm a slave for good and you're basically the same as me. We'll never be free. And that's when he gets to telling her about Vinland. I guess he still believes in it. But then we see the king and Floki yet again saying our advance begins, we're gonna leave soon. And Prince Canute is standing right behind them. But then we find out some lore about the Danes' advance and they're somehow getting stuck in London. And that's when we see the goat himself, Thorkell. He throws his axe and it's spinning down into a boat and it cuts through 4 crew members. And Askeladd tells Thorfinn, yo, you go get Thorkell's head, we'll have another duel. So Floki pulls up to the London Bridge where Thorkell is standing to ask him to join King Sweyn's forces. And Thorkell's like, yeah, I see the point you're coming from. The Englishmen I'm fighting with are very weak. Like, these guys are bums. I could kick each and every single one of them. That makes for an interesting battle, so y'all better go scurry on home. He picks up a big boulder and throws it at their ship, but misses. Floki's like, let's get out of here. But we see arrows being shot at the London Bridge and we see them just throwing boulders down. Thorkell is throwing entire logs down at the ships, causing irreversible damage. But that's when he sees Thorfinn standing on top of the ship with a shield and he's saying, this is an interesting one, nobody touch him. Thorfinn runs and jumps to the London Bridge using the log that Thorkell is holding to kill his momentum so he doesn't take fall damage. He then boosts himself up, hitting flips to land and pull out his blade midair. Thorkell uses another crit that Thorfinn dodges and he switches his grip on the log, starts spinning it midair. Thorfinn decides to run up a wall and Thorkell smashes it. Thorfinn hits another spin to land midair and pull out his final blade. Thorkell tells his army to back off and throws his only weapon off of the bridge. Thorfinn dashes in and Thorkell goes for a punch and Thorfinn barely dodges and ends up cutting his wrist in the exchange. Thorkell goes in for a barrage of punches, even destroying the bridge with one of them, but when Thorfinn goes in for the stab, Thorkell barely dodges it. Thorfinn then runs in for the final exchange and he's staying low, so when Thorkell goes for the kick, he ends up dodging it and appearing behind him. He dead legs him like your friends used to do in middle school, and by the time Thorkell catches himself to look up, Thorfinn's right in his face. He stabs him through the hand. That was only a downside for Thorfinn. He starts getting treated like a rag doll and everybody on the sidelines is hyping Thorkell up and Askeladd's like, oh well, he's cooked. But when Thorkell thinks he's out for the count, he grips his sword and cuts both of his fingers off and slides back against the wall. Thorkell's like, yo, you're actually goated. Who are you? He says, I'm Thorfinn, son of Thors. Thorkell's like, wait, Thors, you mean? And Thorfinn's in the water. But then King Sweyn is like, send most of the forces to the west and 4,000, the rest of them, you know, they can keep fighting. Oh yeah, and the new commander is Prince Canute. But we see Thorfinn and he finally met back up with Askeladd. He pops his shoulder back in place and he gets to walking like nothing happened. And it's only until he sees Thorkell again. But for now, I know this is a late tap out. I know this is a late scene change, but I'ma pass it to my boy Thors.
Yeah, me and King Taliban. Low taller, do it again. For your heart and for your man. He say he ain't got no plan. Walking down, you see a fan. It's too hard, I need a fan. Say he throw it, he ran.
Alright, so bet, he didn't want to speak on this part because he said that shit was lame as fuck, so he passed the ball to me. We gonna pick up where he left off. Thorkell is throwing shit with his Clash of Clans body like he's Drake May. But anyway, the bullet was going so fast it ended up hitting this village. Thorkell's over here celebrating, while Canute's over here pissing on his pants. And to make it worse, Thorfinn ends up unlocking the skill of aura farming. And it doesn't make it better that he got the aura farm assist from Askeladd. But anywho, we come back to the plot. Thorkell and company is raiding the village, and can someone tell me why this big ass nigga is over here swinging a fat ass log at people? Like, I've seen big niggas do big niggas things, but this is a big nigga using his surroundings like he's a short nigga. This log gave him no advantage, he just wanted to swing his pole. Thorkell ended up pulling up on Canute, and that's how the episode ended. We open up the next episode and Canute's captured. Thorkell then starts going on a rant about niggas be dying every day. My homie got sent to Valhalla, I seen him with the gods yesterday, or something like that. Anyway, Thorkell felt a disturbance in his presence, so he took it out with one hand. I heard the Vikings need a quarterback. JJ, your time has come. They ended up taking back Canute, but Thorkell was like, you know my body. So they quit the talking and ended up getting the boxing. Thorkell was working bums, but that's when he felt another disturbance in his area. All he smelled is smoke and mirrors like he Cody Rose, and it turns out to be Askeladd. We then cut to this one dude, and it's Thorfinn. Unk tried to uphold, but he vanished. Now he can't sleep at night. Thorfinn then proceeded to take off his fit and or farm in the flames to let these niggas know who the fuck he is. That's when Thorkell pulled up missing 2 fingers, but you already know Thorfinn's on demon timing. Let him be granted the opportunity, he'll squabble with anybody. That's when we learn that Thorfinn, Thorkell, and Thors is all family, leaving Thorfinn bamboozled. The flames started to get too crazy, so Thorkell just dipped out and said fuck it, we'll meet later, leaving Thorfinn to enhance his aura. And we cut to Askeladd getting respect from Canute, so that's when Canute took off his helmet and oh my god, he's a bad bitch. But now that the backstory is over, let's get to the real understanding of the plot. Askeladd is probably one of the greatest manipulators and D-heads of all time. He's been backdooring people since the start of the show. If there's no bread, nigga, it's not on go. But after slamming out Dr. Eggman and the whole village, we cut to the Band of the Hawk talking about backdooring Askeladd. But you know who else is going to backdoor Askeladd? Yeah, Thorkell was on 10 toes. He launched the spear, taking out Yayo, Bertus, Nanton, and Neritus? Nah, Askeladd, get back! Askeladd tried to give his mans a speech like he Captain America or even Optimus Prime. Look, I'm not gonna lie to y'all, some of y'all are butts, and I ain't gonna lie, it really do be me and Thorfinn kicking ass out here, and I notice like occasionally one of y'all who really be putting in pain, but we are going against Thorkell, Wimbyama, James III, so I'm gonna need y'all to stop being pussy and throw hands, right? But that's when Fat Dude was like, hell no, backdoor this nigga. They got the surrounding Askeladd, but Askeladd was like, I bet, so be it. Took the top off of 2 bums, weaved Dude and put him out of commission. Thorfinn came in the clutch, knives in the hands. That's a hat trick. He doing what 10-10 couldn't. He got the accuracy of all-time Curry. Canute and his man tried to dip off with Thorfinn on the back, leaving Askeladd all by himself. He ends up dropping the swag and told them niggas who's trying to run it first. Meanwhile, on Thorfinn's side, it's a goose chase. Unk up the pole and let everybody fly. But for some reason, Thorfinn kicked this nigga off his horse and rode off with that shit like he boot gang. Canute's laid out, and for some reason this nigga started popping shrooms. We'll come back to that. But we cut back to Thorfinn on 10 toes, ready to squabble whenever he get the chance. And with all the hands being thrown, we cut to Askeladd looking like he got battered and beat. He's still weaving niggas, putting them on tees. Then he did the most diabolical thing I can think of anybody doing and made this nigga permanently blind. He is outdoing these niggas by himself. It's time for y'all to become family men. He got striked in the back, but this nigga said, oh hell no, and split this nigga in half. Yeah, nah, Askeladd is him. They tried to uphold, but Askeladd was like, nigga, I'm on one. Dived in for the shield, got lit up like a candle, but he still stood 10 toes, never folding. Thorfinn did end up pulling up, but so did Thorkell. Bucket had splash charge to plead the 5th, but he got scared shitless that he died. But just like the first 2 times, you already know Thorfinn had to pull up on him. But this is no regular nigga. He just has to pull us a Zara and uppercut a horse. Nigga, do you see the impact? This is a descendant of Michael Vick. Thorfinn rebounded himself, and Askeladd is bamboozled. This fade was made to be made. Thorfinn said something like, bitch ass nigga, you already know I'm gonna beat your ass. Leading these two to squabble up, no Kendrick Lamar. Thorkell was like, hey bro, watch this, I'm about to go put this nigga on the news. Thorfinn dropped the drip again and said, I'm ready for whatever. So that's when the next episode plays, and Thorfinn's over here weaving an axe. Moving like me if I ran into my ops, backed up, posed up, did I say squabble? But nah, Thorfinn ran up on Thorkell ready to put in work. They end up clashing, but they got the squabbling again. Niggas are saying that Thorfinn is losing like he's not putting in work. They making fun of his ass, and Thorkell's like, watch your fucking mouth. He is not letting niggas clown his nephew like he's not dropping hands. We cut back to Canute finally waking up, and he see this one dude putting in work. When I first watched Vinland Saga, I've never seen this scene. This is a grown man, by the way. Anyway, we cut back to the fight, and it turns out that Thorfinn been putting paws on his boy this whole time. And I'm not lying. Thorfinn is a rookie in this game going against a veteran. This is like when Wimby went against KD. They put Canute back in my face to try to give me some symbolism. This is absolute cinema. Meanwhile, we got Thorkell doing smoke screens. I don't know why he doing this. Thorfinn somehow got in the air. Dare I say that brother is floating? He ends up taking a hard fall though, looking like an out-of-season injury. And then we get this scene of Canute or farming. He thinks I'm gonna put him in the edit or something. I walk niggas down.
Why you icy?
Anyway, I'm gonna pass the ball back to Key.
And now it's time to bring it back home. Thorfinn's barely holding on, and that's when Thorkell says, so what's going on? You know what happened to our duel? He gets up, his arm is pointed down. He's hitting the Merrick hand on robot. But Thorkell's a W-man. He's like, you know what? I'll let you rest up. Askeladd pulls up to help him. And that's when Thorkell says, okay, I'll keep my promise. I'll tell you a little bit about your dad. So we already knew that Helga was the daughter of the chieftain, but the chieftain is the older brother of Thorkell, making Thorkell Thorfinn's great uncle. Everyone believed that Thors was dead after the battle because we saw him swim over to shore. But after Thors catches Thorkell's axe, he's like, hold on, this dude is something serious, and he finds out that Thors is still alive. But Thors tells him, I gotta go, I have no need for a sword. So Thorkell tries to fight him, but he breaks the axe with one punch, dodges Thorkell's punch, then puts him to bed. But then Thorkell asks Thorfinn, so what did your dad teach you over there in Iceland? And Thorfinn's like, yeah, no, I'm not telling you jack. And Thorkell's like, oh, it's because he didn't teach you jack. I mean, your eyes don't even look like his, so he didn't give you the secret recipe for real. Askeladd says, no, don't worry, bro, I got you. This is gonna be the first time me and you get along. I'm gonna teach you how to beat him. So all Thorfinn can do right now is barely manage to dodge Thorkell's attack. Thorkell saying, so are you just gonna keep running, or are you actually gonna fight me? But we see Askeladd cleaning his sword off with snow, saying, Thorfinn, just keep it up, wait for the right moment, you're doing good, champ. Askeladd explains how long ago in battle he saw Thorkell's weak spot, and it was the first time he's seen him fall in a battle. Thorfinn gets his weapon knocked out of his hand and sent into a tree. Thorkell's walking up saying, yo, is this really it, bro? You're not a warrior. Are you truly Thor's son? I think you're capping. Y'all gotta get a DNA test. So as he walks up for the final blow, Askeladd says, now's your chance. He shines the sword, blinding Thorkell, and that's when Thorfinn hops up and hits him in his neck, and Thorkell comes to the ground. Thorfinn starts going rabid like a dog and hops on him and starts trying to gouge his eyeballs out, but that's when Thorkell's crew gets him off of him and pins him, saying, yo, in his life. Thorkell gets up and he's saying, no, y'all are disrespecting my duel. But that's when Canute pulls up and he's recently changed. He's saying everybody who's dying right now is dying in vain. You see all of Askeladd's crew over there and that guy's brother who doesn't even know his brother, all in vain, no purpose, no reason. He's saying, where's your pride? You see this duel? So Thorkell's like, all right, let go of Thorfinn. But when Canute tries to leave, Thorkell's like, why would I let my hostage leave? They even try to sneak him from behind, but Canute says, stop that, I'm not even trying to run for real. He says, the reason I wouldn't make a good hostage is because my dad doesn't love me at all. I'm not getting the crown my brother is. My life has no meaning. Thorkell kicks his chair over. He's like, what you talking about, bro? I'm about to show you your life has meaning, because when I punch you, you're gonna be screaming for mercy. No reaction. And he's like, all right, you have the same look as this one guy I know, so can I join your crew? And that's when Askeladd tells Canute, I was actually the one who murdered Ragnar, so if you want to kill me, you can. You can see Canute's emotions for a little bit. He's like, yeah, nah, just take his position and follow me. But after Canute gives everybody the audible, saying, all right, Thorkell, you go this way. Askeladd, Thorfinn, you come with me. They go to the king's hall, and Sweyn is saying, everybody kneel. Canute, come here real quick. I gotta tell you something. The crown basically told me I have no use for you. I mean, you already knew this, right? Your brother's getting the crown. And I'm sorry to say this, but the crown said your friends too, they gotta go with you. So guards come from behind the curtains. They got archers up top. It's looking like it's over for them. But Askeladd's like, I got it from here. Give me permission to speak real quick. He's like, your son took Thorkell, and Thorkell could wipe everybody in this room in a heartbeat, mind you, and your son did this. Last you saw of your son, he was scared, tail between his legs. Now look at him. You can already see a difference. But yeah, he took Thorkell and his men, and now they're on your side. So fighting the English should not be that hard. And Sweyn is like, all right, I see your point. But you say your name's Askeladd, right? Covered in ash. Tell me your real name. That's gotta be a nickname. He's like, oh, my dad didn't give me a real name for real. So Sweyn's like, oh, you were born by a mistress. Your mother was a slave. And you can see it all in Askeladd's face. He's gripping the ground. Even Thorfinn's like, whoa, I've never seen this dude this angry. Same dude who told me in our very first duel when I actually started moving different not to get angry or lose my cool. And look at him right now. His aura is emanating rage. Did I say that right? No, sometimes I gotta throw in a word I won't usually use. But then Sweyn's like, all right, that's cool, I'll leave. And then we meet Ragnar's brother, and this dude's name is actually Gunnar. I thought it was pronounced Gunnar, but no, this man said Gunnar. Canute tells him keep close watch on the king. But we see Leif in the same area as Thorfinn. Does this mean we're getting a family reunion? He's not family, but you know, I'm just gonna say that. But Askeladd is talking to Canute, and Canute's saying, my dad's gonna start a fight at the banquet tomorrow. We need to have a plan. And Askeladd's like, how does getting assassinated sound? And that's when Canute gets shot and falls down, and that's when Askeladd screams out that the prince has been shot. We see this guy in the hood walking away, but Thorfinn pulls up and cooks him off screen. We see Leif walking, and Thorfinn drops down with the dagger to the guy, and that's when a whole bunch of guards pull up saying, Thorfinn, you are in big trouble, mister. Had I been in that new scat pack, yo, it's not gonna catch me. But then the head of the goon gets a punch to the face because he's talking too much, and one of the guards says, hold on, you're Thorfinn Karlsefni, aren't you? And after Leif hears Thorfinn, he's like, you're from Iceland? Are you the son of Thors? And Thorfinn puts 2 and 2 together that the man in front of him is Leif. They have a long, beautiful hug. It was so emotional. But then we find out that the person who was actually assassinated was not the prince, and it was just some random slave woman. But then Leif starts telling Thorfinn, yo, what about your family? Why are you leaving them? Thorfinn's like, shut up, bro. All I want to know is about Vinland. You are not the Thorfinn I knew. And Thorfinn walks away. We see Bjorn, and he's suffering from an infected wound, and he's saying, I want to go out in battle. So Askeladd's like, bet, I'll get you out of here tomorrow. But Askeladd and the prince are scheming. They start a rumor to get stuff stirred up before the banquet tomorrow. Bjorn pulls up on Askeladd for one last duel, but Askeladd basically one-taps him. He missed the heart, so it wasn't instant, so he has to, you know, bleed out a little bit, and Askeladd's like, dang. And this was kind of sad, because I mean, I grew to like Bjorn. Like, even though he did what he did, I mean, I didn't hate the dude. But Thorfinn and Askeladd get ready for their final duel. Thorfinn's grown so much, I believe he can truly win this one. Both of his hands caught, he starts getting hit with combos on top of combos. Askeladd is beating him so bad, Thorkell says, I don't even want to watch this, bro. This isn't a duel at this point. And after he gets done smacking the life out of him, he's out cold. Canute slaps him awake and says, yo, bro, you lost. It's over. Askeladd sits down and gives him a whole backstory because the duel was just that bad. He's saying, you know why you keep losing? I know all your moves. I can read you like a book. Like Mash said in that one episode when he was fighting Cell War. He knew all his moves. He had to change it up. You got to do the same thing or you're going to continue getting smacked by me. But then he goes on to say how when he was younger, he got his name Askeladd because he always had to work by a furnace and he was always covered in ash. His dad was the lord of the land and his mom was Olaf's favorite slave. But once she got ill, he was like, nah, I can't mess with you no more. So Askeladd had to take care of her. And their ancestor named Thors, they believe he's on a land still tending to his wounds, a land where you don't age, a land where there's no war, basically Vinland, but in their eyes. But one day when Askeladd's mom finally lost it, she goes out and she ended up touching Olaf and he was ready to kill her. But Askeladd pulls up with his blade and they start playing Deep Woken, Type Soul, whatever they're playing in the middle of the street, just parry trading left and right before Askeladd gets knocked off balance and he points the sword to him. But then he sheathes his sword saying, yo, you got promise. I guess I'll start calling you my son. And he starts hanging out with his other brothers, making everything look sweet. But he was just gaining their trust because one day he slimes out his dad and slimes out the woman in the bed with him. He used his youngest brother's sword to make it look like he did it and they ended up stringing this man up and he didn't even kill the dad. And he said they were vile creatures. He's not messing with that, so he had to get up out of there. But that's when Thorfinn says, I'm still gonna slime you out. I don't care about anything you said. And Askeladd's like, wow, bro, you're really stupid. You gotta put the sword up, bro. Hang the coat up, retire. Stop trying to fight me. Like, what are your goals in life? You got nothing better to do? And then he walks away. Thorfinn takes one look into his sword. He sees his reflection. He's reminiscing about everything and all he can do is let out a scream and cry. Cause deep down, he knows Askeladd was right. But we see the banquet getting started and Canute asks Askeladd where Thorfinn is. Askeladd's like, don't even worry, bro. He'll find his own way. And that's when we see Thorfinn running cause he thinks he sees Askeladd. But it's just some random dude and his 2 other goons. And they're like, you're not gonna get away with grabbing my coat. Your dirty, grimy hands. So they knock him to the ground. So when he picks Thorfinn up and tries to punch him in the face, he gets hit with a forced palm, making his cheeks flat back. Then he cooks every other person standing there and he gets thrown in jail. We see Askeladd and everybody else in the banquet, and Askeladd and Floki are playing poker face right now, or whatever it's called, because Askeladd is smiling. He's like, yo, the king's saying everything in my favor, and Floki's over there, he's not looking the greatest. But when King Swain says they tried to reach out to the Welsh people and they would not bend their knee, they'll be attacking them in the spring. And that's when Floki looks up and he notices Askeladd is shot. His entire expression changed. We find out that Askeladd's true home is in Wales, and his true people are the Welsh people, and that's where his mother's grave actually is. But Leif comes to Thorfinn in prison and he's telling him, yo, times can get rough. I remember when I lost my first girl. I don't know if you've had any experiences with that, but I was kind of in a sad state like you were. But you gotta know there's more things to this life. What did your dad think? We can make Vinland, me and you together. We can just venture out and find it. We can put an end to all the violence in this world. And he even gets Thorfinn to sit up. But that's when Askeladd says, nah, I'ma do something about it. And he walks over and he kneels in front of the king. He says, I've been lucky all this time up until now, but I think my luck has finally run out. But Canute specifically said to Askeladd not to stir up trouble because he knew what could come out of it. Askeladd says, I ask that you look away from Wales. Not only would invading their territory just be a waste of time, not only because of the mountains and junk, because we could do a whole lot of falling and we would lose a lot of our army, but it's like they're a dead horse already. There's no point in claiming Wales because it's just a waste of time and the reward's not even that big. And even the audience is agreeing with him. But then he says, if you truly do have a problem with them, you can send me as a messenger. But then he smiles and he's like, yo, you're such a loyal vassal. Everybody should be like you. That's when he brings him closer to a whisper and he says, I did some research on you. I looked into your files. If you bring me the head of my son right over there, Canute, you see him, I mean, you know and love him. Wales is safe because I already know you have ties with them. And that's when he says nothing good comes out of Wales. It seems the only thing produced there are filthy slaves like your mother. He hits him with a mean side eye. W. Askeladd, he's thinking about sliding for his mother while she's in the afterlife. He's not letting anybody disrespect her. And we see Leif getting ready to leave with Thorfinn, but something catches Thorfinn's attention. And it was the man who wrote Vinland Saga saying, yo, Thorfinn, your story does not end here. I'm gonna need you to move the scene. So when Leif turns around, Thorfinn is gone. Askeladd tells the king, yo, I'm gonna be so honest, your face makes me sick. You are genuinely ugly. And that crown on top of your head, bro, you are not worthy. Audience is like, yo, how do we go from being praised to this? Even King Sweyn said, hold on, what did you say? Askeladd repeated himself. And that's when he reaches for his sword, but the guards also pull out their blades. So Askeladd pulls out his sword, he points it to the king. Sweyn is saying, put the blade down and I'll look the other way. But he tells him, I'm gonna tell you my real name before I send you up high. He says the name my mother gave me was Lucius Artorius Castus. Loki throws his drink to distract Lucius, but Lucius blocks it. And when the guards run up, Lucius beheads King Sweyn. Get this ugly warded witch looking dude off of my screen. Thank you. Lucius then starts tearing up each and every single person at the banquet that's trying to fight him. Because Canute says that he went mad. You guys need to seize him at once because he's out here shouting that he's the rightful heir. And Thorfinn gets wind of this, so he starts trying to get inside of the building. Loki pulls up to him and he's saying, how dare you kill the king? Who do you think you are? Lucius is like, what, bro? I'm the king right here. You're looking at me. Only thing you are is the son of a slave. He puts both of his hands on the blade and starts taking him to the ground saying, I own you. And when it's looking like it's about to be wraps for Floki, that's when Thorfinn runs in, jumping on people's shoulders and shouts out Askeladd. He tells Thorfinn to stay back and Askeladd ends up getting stabbed. And the person that stabbed Askeladd was Canute himself. Askeladd says, yo, is that the first time you've stabbed somebody? Talking to him like he doesn't have a blade in his body. And he's like, you did well. Because this was a plan all from the start. Askeladd wanted to be the scapegoat so he could take the fall and Canute could end up becoming the king. And before Askeladd can hit the ground, Thorfinn runs up and catches him. And Thorfinn is telling Askeladd, get back up. I still have to be the one to kill you. And he's saying, why don't you do it right now? You can already see me in this vulnerable state. Just take me out of my misery. He's like, who do you think I am? I'm trying to take you out in a duel, bro. And that's when he says, tell me, what are you gonna do after I go? Because your goal for the past, 10 years has been just to kill me to get revenge for your father. And Askeladd tells him to go farther than Thors, farther than he ever went, and that will be his true battle. And while Thorfinn's still shouting at him, Askeladd finally dies. But that's when Canute tries to explain what happened to him, and Thorfinn just looks back, stares at him, then runs up for a cut, and all the guards are now trying to kill Thorfinn. But Canute tells them not to kill him. He says Thorfinn's right to act like this, but that's when he steps up onto the stage and takes the crown that his dad used to wear. And he says, I'm now the king. He tells everybody to bow. We see Thorfinn struggling and Canute just turns his back. Thorkell does the same. He doesn't even know what to say. And that's when they drag Thorfinn out the building and he drops his knife and we get one of the greatest scenes in the anime. Shoot, I'm gonna go out to say in all of anime. Not the greatest scene in all of anime, but it's gotta be like top 5. And we see all of his memories throughout the entire season flashing through the dagger, and when it hits the ground, we go on to see a bunch of characters we don't know anything about, but we're going to see in the next season. And that's the end to Vinland Saga Season 1. But that's all there is for me. Make sure to sub. Part 2 probably whenever, and I'll see y'all on Cyberpunk.